Brace yourselves.
Winter is coming.
And so is the Blipsounds December competition. Hey Blipsounds, it's Brian Seeley, and I am super excited to talk about the beginning of December's competition and the end of November's competition. In keeping with the GOT theme, December's competition we are calling A Sound of Fire and Ice. For this month, we will be recreating Frost's fatality attack from Mortal Kombat 11, which you can see here. So that's the ice. For the fire, we will be recreating the sound using only fire sounds. I will be providing 2 files for you to use that are both fire-related sounds. Like last month, you can use one or you can use both of them. Now, if you're wondering if this can be done or not, I assure you it can. And next week, we will be releasing a video where I will show you how I recreated that sound using just the fire sounds provided. And as a bonus, I will be doing that using mostly plugins and tools that are available with Reaper. I won't be doing much manipulation using any other third-party tools, just to show you that not only is it possible, but it's possible using just stock stuff from Reaper. So if you are just diving into this competition or sound design in general, and you are wondering how you will tackle this, I hope that my video next week will give you some inspiration to complete your own redesign. I think this will be a lot of fun for you all because I had a lot of fun with this challenge myself. Now on to November. We talked about doing things a little bit differently, so rather than just reviewing the top 5 and announcing the winner of the videos from the previous month, we would review all of the videos. And that was a great idea in theory. The encouraging thing is that we had 24 entries for the month of November, and that's super exciting. The downside is, in order to keep this video at any sort of reasonable length, we could only do about 30 seconds to a minute review for each video. 1, that's not really valuable to anybody, and 2, we realized that there was a lot of common areas that needed to be discussed, and so I would wind up sounding like a broken record on a lot of these. So rather than focus on each individual video, I'm going to be focusing on common successes and common not so successes. We will look at some of them to get an idea of what I'm talking about, and I'm going to be spending some time showing you all some tips and tricks that I use to achieve some of the things that we'll be talking about. We also have other plans for the competition going forward that I'm really excited about, but we're going to be talking about in other videos, and I don't want to spoil all that right now. Suffice to say, I'm really excited for the direction of the competition for 2020, and I hope you all will be as well. Now, without further ado, let's jump on over to my workstation and dive into these videos. So here we are at my workstation. And some of the things that I want to talk about are frequency issues and impact. One of the most common things I noticed was either not enough low end in the video, or sometimes there was enough low end, but there wasn't enough impact. There wasn't enough punch or enough transience in there. So why do we talk a lot about frequencies? Well, frequency helps us to determine the size and weight of an object. So when you're watching something in a movie or on TV or something, or playing in a video game, you are aware of the size of something, not just visually, but what it sounds like. So when we want to make something sound heavy and sound big, we add more low end to it. And when we want something to sound light and dainty, we take that low end out and we add more high end. Now, for the sake of this, when I'm talking about low end, I mean anything at 200 hertz and below. And when I'm talking about high end, I mean anything that's 10,000 hertz and up. Everything else falls into low mid, mid, and high mid range. In this instance, with Sigma's accretion attack, we want it to feel heavy. He's throwing these rocks that are exploding on impact, and these are fairly almost human-sized boulders, and when they hit something, you want to feel the weight of that. And I know some of you talked about how, asking how to get more low end out of these sounds, because none of these sounds particularly has a lot of low end. And that's true. There's no sound that we provided that really has a lot of low end, and most of it has a lot of mid and high frequency information in there. So in this, you have to get a little creative at times. And so I want to dive into what I recreated and talk a little bit about how to get some of these frequency ranges. So let's check out what I worked on. And I just want to play it for you real quick. So I didn't want to go for super boomy low end. What I wanted was something that felt heavy, but also had a nice attack to it. Now, I want to start right actually with the impact, and that's right when the boulders are hitting the wall. And to get that heavy impact, I use the shovel sound, which is actually these two sounds right here. And you hear the one shovel sound I made super deep. And I have an EQ on it, which if I take that EQ off, it's the normal sound, but I went absolutely nuts with it on the EQ. You can see this is boosting at about 7 dB, around 298. This is my shelf, and then I'm using a bell curve to boost even more low end. And then sucking all that high end out of it, and then using this one to add more attack to it. This is just high end. I didn't want it to be so piercing. So even though I sucked out a lot of the high end up to about 2100 hertz, I still used a bell curve just to pull down a little bit on it. And then together, nice and intense. And I wanted something that felt heavy on the attack. This part of the attack has the most sounds in it to create a broad landscape. Here we have the slow spoon dirt, which I took the spoon in the dirt and I just slowed it down. The metal stuff, so I'm actually using the convolution amp that comes with Reaper. Without it, it's the metal sounds, but I wanted to dirty it up and get rid of some of that high piercing. So I just ran it through the convolution amp on the Vox AC30. And that's adding a lot more mid-range to it. So I don't have to worry about having something that sounds too thin because there's not enough mid-range in it. And then all of my rock sounds, I think I might be doing some pitch alteration on some of them. I'm also using the bone and the wood. I'm using a multiband compressor to take out some of that high end so that they're not so piercing. So without them. And then for my delay, I'm using the delay that comes with Reaper, but I'm using it with different taps so that I can kind of control the feedback. I took the resolution all the way down, and that's helping it create some more light sounds. And I like this because I could add more taps if I want to. But I felt that the 4 taps were pretty good at getting some of those little rock sounds. But the main thing that I wanted to address was the impact. And so like I said, I used the shovel hit to get some of that heavy intensity. And then I made sure that all my big impact, all my big rock sounds all happen right at the beginning. So you'll see here with the dirt, this rock, and this rock sound all playing together, along with the 2 shovels, just to really help it sell really big. And then on the bus track itself, I used a limiter to get it loud enough. I was clipping some, so the limiter is just keeping it in check, and helps to give it a little bit more intensity. So that's what I'm talking about with low end and intensity. You don't want a whole lot of low end in there to muddy things up. You want just enough to sell the intensity of the attack, but you also need some impact in there as well too, to really drive home that this is a heavy hit. And so watching it with the video, my goal was to sell that this is an intense attack, and I'm hoping that I've done that. Now, naturally, in an actual video game environment, I would have the other devs listen to it and give feedback on it. So I always approach these with, well, it's probably going to get edited more later. I try to do a first pass to make sure that I'm moving in the right direction. The other thing that you'll see in here, and I hope a lot of you do this, is that you set up markers for yourself so that you know where everything is. So in the video, I have my markers set up for where the video starts, where the throw happens, the impact, when the attack itself finishes, so that I've got everything right where I want it. And I do want to check out some of the videos here. So this first one is D-Grins, and there's good attack on it, but there's not a lot of low end, and I think there was a little too much reverb in the video. It's, really good smack attack in there, just nice, strong, but like I said, that lack of low end, you're not feeling the intensity of the attack. Another one I want to look at would be Bruno's video. I like the panning. It was very appropriate. Even in the initial video itself, there's a lot of panning going on. But the problem with panning is that you lose low end. You need your low end to be centered, or else you don't get your low end when it's just in one ear or the other. And that heavy panning almost gets you a little disoriented. The farther you go to the other end, if you listen to it, especially with headphones on, it almost starts to sound like the attack is happening behind you. It's no longer happening in front of you. So you're not only losing that low end, you're also losing the aural focus of where the attack is happening. So be careful with your pan. You don't need to pan as much as you think you need to. Okay, I'm gonna pick on Lewis McDonald for a little bit with his video. So Lewis did a really good job. I think the build was a little weird, a little too much high end, but there was good attack. I think his transients could have been stronger, but there was good frequency in there. It's a great sound overall, and I want to check that out again. That rock hitting the wall sounds like an explosion, and it was a really good job in terms of that, of getting a nice strong attack. I want to pick on the sound effects guy. So I love the creative interpretation of that. The glitch style was really interesting with some of those sounds going on. I thought it had good low end, but again, like a lot of the other videos, could have used more attack, could have used something that just sells that it's huge. I like some of the attention to detail, such as when he's launching that attack and you see that flash. Just nice attention to detail, nice low end. The glitch is a little weird, but I love the creativity behind it. Another one that I want to pick on is Cream Pie, and I want to pick on Cream Pie because I remember in Discord, they wish that they could have gotten more low end out of it, which when you hear the video, I think is kind of interesting. And I think Cream Pie actually has a lot of low end into it, so much so that it almost sounds like the video itself is distorting. So I wonder in part if either your headphones aren't capturing a lot of the low end, or your listening environment, you're not getting a lot of low end out of, because you actually have a really, really strong attack on there. I think this is one of the better videos. I think it's one of the strongest contenders out there. I think you did great. I think a little bit more high end in there to create definition would help. Like that attack, because the fact that it sounds like it's distorting a little makes it sound heavier. I don't think I would send it in with that kind of distortion. And some of that distortion could be from bouncing it down and it's being digitally compressed. But there's good low end, there's good attack to it. Like I said, I think you need some more high end in there for definition and to get some more transients. I want to look at another one to talk about why you need more low end. This comes from Farron. So they use the bone crunching at the beginning. And a lot of these sounds, for the most part, sounded like they were unprocessed. They were just kind of dropped in. So what you lose without having any of that low end in there, you're losing the intensity of the attack. It feels weak. It's not an attack you would be afraid of. It almost sounds like somebody, crumbling up some paper and throwing it at you. Like, that's not scary. That's funny. If somebody were to pick up a massive boulder and throw it at me, that would be terrifying. And I would expect to hear a lot of intense sounds from that. And again, that was one of the common things that I saw, was that there's not a lot of low end. There's not enough transients in there. And so the attack doesn't feel as strong as it could be. And again, that's why I'm not going to review each and every single video, because I would start to sound like a broken record. So I'm hoping that this gives you inspiration going forward. I do want to dive back a little bit more into what I worked on, just to talk a little bit more about low end and about attack. One of the things that I commonly do on my mixes is I will almost always have a submix channel, and that's the last channel that all the sounds will run through before it hits the master fader. And on my submix, I have 3 plugins on there. I have a reverb plugin, I have an EQ plugin, and then I have a limiter, which I'm using to gain things up to loudness. I'm going to turn all of these off so you can hear what it sounds like without them. So very dry. Here's with the reverb. And you can see I'm only mixing the reverb in at about 15%. It's only adding a little bit. I didn't even use a preset. I just kind of loaded it up stock and then just really fiddled with the mix knob until I got something that sounded good. Here I'm using Master EQ from IK Multimedia. And you could do this with any EQ. So don't focus on the tool. Focus on what I'm doing with the tool. So here I'm doing a pretty decent boost at 60 hertz. I'm cutting a little bit in the mid-range, and then I'm doing a heavy boost at about the 11K region. So without it, and then with it. So it's adding in a little bit more low end to it. And I will admit that because I'm boosting more than I'm cutting, it's probably adding a little bit more volume to it as well too. But that's fine. You don't have to volume match every single plugin. If the plugin is also adding volume and doing something too, that's fine. And then the last thing that I did is I put on a limiter to help gain it up a little bit louder. The limiter is intentionally adding volume to it. Normally, I would not put the limiter on it. If I was submitting this to a video game, I would actually have it a lot quieter. I would probably have my peaks hitting around -6 dBFS, and I would go for probably something closer to like a -18 RMS. But because I would be submitting this to a competition or to public, I would want it to be gained as loud as possible so that it sounds competitive. So, and that also, just by being louder, helps it to feel more intense. The reason why you don't want to send something to developers smacking all the way up at 0 dBFS with high RMS and things like that is there's going to be a lot of sounds going on in the game. There's going to be music, there's going to be VO, there's going to be other sound effects going on. If everything is all pushed up to 0 dBFS and everything's competing for this upper limit of the digital range, everything's just going to sound distorted because your master bus is just going to be slammed, and it's either going to be clipping, so you're going to get digital distortion, or it's going to be hitting a limiter and everything's just going to sound squashed. So you would want to send something in that's peaking probably around -6 dBFS, maybe even quieter, because you can turn it up in the engine. And then that gives the devs freedom, and especially the sound engine freedom, to be able to turn up and turn down things as necessary depending on the circumstances going on. So for a competition, don't be afraid to put a limiter on the end of your chain and boost the volume up as high as you need to. But when you're submitting it to a dev team, make sure that you're not peaking much above -6 dBFS. I hope this was informative. I know this was different. I know that I'm not able to get to every single video, but I hope that as you're watching this, you find value. I hope that it helps, and I'll be in Discord answering any questions that you might have. I'm gonna try to respond to each of you in Discord to give you more personal feedback about your video and hopes of getting a conversation going on, because my goal is to see you all grow as sound designers. I want you all to feel like this competition provides you value. So if you have any questions, you have any comments, please feel free to either leave them in the comments section down below. If you're not a member of our Discord, there is a link. If you're watching this on YouTube, and the link in the doobly-doo. If you're watching this anywhere else, there should be a link somewhere above, below me, to the side of me with our Discord link. Please come join our channel. We're a fun-loving group. We have over 700 members now, and we are the #1 sound design community on Discord. And our goal is to provide as much value as possible to whoever crosses our paths. Also, if you haven't yet, check out blipsounds.com and sign up for our free course on sound design and FMOD integration. And when you sign up, you get a free sound library. Consider checking out our game audio training series, where we go more into not just, this is a little taste of what you would see in there. And in there, Ryan goes even more in depth in sound design and mixing and integration and all that kind of stuff. I can't wait to see what you all create for the December's competition. Next week, I'll be releasing a video detailing how I recreated the sound for Frost's Fatality. So until then, I hope you all have a great week. I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays to all of you, and I'll see you next week.